Welcome to the Popcorn Wine Down with Tammy and Eddie. Grab your popcorn, pour yourself a glass of wine, and come hang out with us as we discuss the latest in movies, TV, and music.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wine Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us this week, where we will be talking about Netflix's series, Selena This series. But first, let's get to the wine down. Okay, Tammy, I threw a special one in here, and I know how much you hate talking about politics. And hopefully, after this week, or maybe next week, we won't have to talk about this white trash family anymore, but I just thought this was funny. Have you heard about the porta potty scandal?
No.
You were like, no. Well, Ivanka and Jared, they made the Secret Service, they wouldn't let the Secret Service use the bathroom in their home. So this whole time, apparently, they have been making them, they first tried to rent out a bunch of porta potties, but the neighbors complained about the porta potties. So then they had to rent out, they had to pay the neighbors to let them use the bathroom until they finally rented them an apartment close by. So that was the porta potty scandal. And I just thought, like, how bad is it that you won't even let the people who are paid to protect you use the bathroom in your house? Like, really? So that's the porta potty scandal. But moving on. It's kind of fitting if you think about it. Like, really, it is, But moving on. So, have you heard that Bond has been pushed back again till Easter weekend this time?
Yeah, I don't believe it until I actually see it in theater. So, yeah, keep pushing it back. Because the theaters ain't opening on Easter. I don't know what made them think that the theater's going to be open on Easter.
Yeah, if you go to the website, thepopcornwinedown.com, our first plug of the year. Haha. Still haven't gotten a sound effect for that, though. We're working on it. There's a whole article this week about how a lot of the movies are being pushed back again. And this time, a lot of the dates are just TBD. And it's because of what you said. The theaters are not opening anytime soon, I don't think. And I think anyone who just thought that 2021 was magically going to fix or cure all that ailed with 2020, I don't know whether to call them optimistic, naive, or just fucking stupid. But,
I didn't think it would last as long as it has. I did think that, 2021, we could have a semblance of normalcy, but, the shit show of who handled the pandemic and the fact that there is millions of people who refuse to acknowledge the fact that we're currently in a pandemic is the reason why we will not be feeling normal for another year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I did not think that 2021 would automatically cure all the ills. I thought that, we would start to see some light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe after the 20th, we'll start to get more optimistic, or we'll get more realistic prognostications, that's the word of the day, about when that's going to happen. But
wait, hold on. Did you just throw out an SAT word? That I did. I don't even know. Like, I don't even remember what it sounds like. Like, say the word again. Like it didn't even click in my head on the what's the word again?
Prognostications.
And that was a lesson in words that regular human beings never use. Thank you, Eddie.
You're welcome. Like, I do what I can to cheer you up and to lighten the mood, That's what I'm here for. We all have our thing.
Oh my gosh.
So, as I was saying,
go ahead. I'm sorry. I apologize for having to break that down. My bad. Go ahead.
I'm so, well, Look, dude, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I use real words. Anyway,
dictionary words, y'all. But we love her anyway. We love Eddie anyway.
You know how I feel about the dictionary. So, we'll get some real world, some actual honesty and truth in all of this. Hopefully that'll help. But back to Bond. There are also rumors about the latest guy in the lead or the running to play Bond, and his name is Jean Page from Bridgerton, which is also on our list coming up. So, stay tuned for the Bridgerton episode. But, and he fits two of the requirements, of course. Well, not two of the requirements, but of course he's British, which is awesome. And, he would fit the bill for those calling for a black Bond or who would like to see a black Bond. I am one of those who would. But also, when we talked about this before, I think he would be perfect from the sense where you could kind of reboot the series and maybe go back to his origin story. And I know one of the latest Bond video game, I think it did that. It went back to his origin. So if you wanted to go younger, I think he would be perfect for that. And also, I think that is a sign that his career is really taking off, or that he's finally made it, because it seems like every British male actor, they know that they've made it when the Bond rumors start circulating around them. So, welcome to the show.
That's the only thing, is that he's good looking, and he was on one of the top shows towards the end of 2020. I don't think he's an actual viable choice. I don't think he's on the actual list of people who could play James Bond, but it does show that he's made it if people are throwing his name out there, because they've thrown out 50 people now. So, but he's good looking. He's a good looking dude.
And that's one of the prerequisites for Bond, because Connery, dang, that the original. But anyway, may he rest. Lord knows how I feel about the young. Anyway, let me stop. So, also, in reboot news, they are rebooting Sex and the City. It's going to be on HBO Max. And there's a couple of things about this. It's going to be without Samantha, who was a lot of people's favorite character.
Kill her off. That's what I said.
It seems Kim Cattrall and Sarah Jessica Parker did not bury the hatchet between them.
And never will.
The blood is still bad and toxic. So, they're not going to force them to do that. Because if you remember from the original series, towards the end, the last few episodes, there were very few scenes or shows where Carrie and Samantha were in the same scene, and very few where they were
into doing the two movies, because she didn't want to do them.
Yeah, so it may be for the best, but also they are getting the bag. Like the three women, they're getting $1 million per episode. So if
isn't that what they were getting before?
No, like before, it was unheard of before. I think Friends, they were the first ones to get $1 million per episode for anything, but no, they weren't getting that much before.
I don't know how much they were making per episode, because I know it was really high up, because at one point, she was making more money than any other actress for being on Sex and the City.
And I think that was part of Kim Cattrall's problem with it. But I know Sarah Jessica Parker was getting paid more than everyone else. But it wasn't $1 million. But now they're all getting $1 million per. So, I was telling someone the other day, if her coming back would be taken out of my bag, then, let her stay. Nah. But so here's the thing. I am looking forward to it, but you and I have had this conversation about how Sex and the City, the original series, it was great back in the day, but it hasn't aged well.
No, it hasn't.
And so I hope that they fix some of that toxicity. Like, first of all, how the hell can you be in New York City and not have any friends of color? You have the one gay dude who is your friend. So they checked that box, but you didn't have any black friends. I think someone's maid was Hispanic or something like that, or Latina.
Means you have no Hispanic friends.
Yeah, so we're gonna need for Sex and the City to actually show the true New York and have some real people of color in the show, Like, not just as someone you're passing as you walk down Fifth Avenue, but some actual characters who,
but doesn't that
mean
say
something.
It about like all of these shows that are rebooting, right? They all have this issue at one point in the show's history. Friends was the exact same thing. That's the reason why they ended up bringing in Aisha Tyler and Gabrielle Union. Was it Gabrielle Union who was in it as well?
I don't know if Gabrielle was in it. I know Aisha Tyler was in it, and
it was somebody. It was somebody else. I think it was Gabrielle Union, but and then
David
Gossip
Schwimmer.
Girl.
Yeah, and David Schwimmer talked about how he fought for Aisha Tyler. Like he was always saying that they needed more people of color, and he fought for that relationship. And if Ross and Rachel were in game, but he wanted the relationship to last longer. And if for some reason Ross and Rachel didn't get back together, then he wanted Ross to end up with a black woman or a woman of color. Because Ross dated his first girlfriend, Janine. Wasn't she Asian? Like he dated an Asian. So Ross was he was the nerdiest and the most diverse of all the friends.
Yeah, wasn't his wife? His wife was Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah. When he called her the wrong name. But Gossip Girl as well. Gossip Girl got a lot of pushback for that. I know it was High Society of New York. But High Society of New York is even diverse in certain ways as well. And especially for a school, there's no way you got no black children in that school. Well, no kids of color. Like let's not talk like black people are the only people of color. But even like Hispanics, Asians, like they had no one really of color who was on that show. It was just a whole bunch of white people until the last season.
Yeah, well, they're rebooting Gossip Girl on HBO Max as well. So, and looking at the cast, we'll be talking about that more on the website too, thepopcornwinedown.com, plug. But looking at the cast, it does seem that they're trying to fix some of that. So we will see what happens with that. But
I just hope they don't do it as in just to check a box, but they actually make these characters people of significance on the show. Didn't they take a picture of who is going to be on the show this time? I'm sorry, I'm just going right off, but I swore they took a picture of the cast of Gossip Girl. Yeah, on the
they
of the
did.
Met.
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
So we'll see, and we'll definitely talk more about that. Also, one other thing that they definitely need to fix. I want to know what happens with Carrie and Big. As far as I'm concerned, they should be divorced, because as much as we all were like, "Oh, Big is that relationship is toxic as fuck."
He's an asshole.
Like, yeah. And it was so toxic, and we all were just thinking Big was the end all, the be all, and Carrie and Aiden. And I'm like, just like I said, it hasn't aged well at all.
No.
And so I hope they fix some of that. And as much as I love Christopher Noth, I wouldn't be upset if this was a Bigless episode, a Bigless reboot, and they were divorced and she moved on and she was looking for new love or whatever. Because or unless they completely reboot the character and he's seen the error of his ways. But and speaking of rebooting character, I don't know how to broach this one. This week was a big week for a certain actor. Are you an Armie Hammer fan?
Who that is?
He starred in he co-starred with Leonardo DiCaprio in Hoover or J. Edgar. He's also the lead.
I actually don't remember.
He's also the lead. He's also the Well, J. Edgar was a forgettable movie for a lot of reasons. It was. As much as I love Leo, I hate seeing it, and it had nothing to do with his performance, but still. He was also the lead in Call Me by Your Name with Timothée Chalamet.
I remember Timothy.
Okay. Well, Armie Hammer, he was set to co-star with Jennifer Lopez, J-Lo, in the movie Shotgun Wedding. And I remember starting to read some of this last week, and I thought, oh, okay. But he's involved in a pretty big batshit crazy scandal, which has so many different components, you don't know where to even begin. So I'm going to try to break this down as simple as possible. First, he's into BDSM, which seems to be the worst kept secret in Hollywood, because he would like all this stuff on his social media pages, not realizing that other people who follow you can see what you like. So everyone's always known that he's been into kink and all that, which is fine. Whatever happens between consenting adults is between consenting adults. I'm not judging. BDSM is not my bag, but hey, go for it, right? So that's one thing. And apparently in those relationships, he is the dom. Okay. So now one of his subs, I think she's in England, she leaked a lot of their DMs and texts. And they're creepy as fuck. Like, if you were into BDSM, he would probably be the last person you want to try it with. Like, he talks about how he's into cannibalism, like real actual cannibalism, not eating, never mind, but you know what I'm saying. And yeah, so it goes on to talk about that and some other creepy stuff, how he wanted to cut off her toe and, carry it around with him, so he would always have a piece of her with him. It talks about how the only way he can get off is if he's, penetrating her anally, which, okay, whoa, to each their own. Yeah. It talks about how he apparently cut the heart out of a living animal, and he likes to do that, and, how he wants to play out these violent, sadistic rape scenes with her. And so that's one thing. And like I said, it may not be my bag, but whatever happens between consenting adults is between consenting adults. And just reading that, though, he would be the last person I'd ever want to try that with, because it seems like he might get carried away, and while he's getting off, you got dead, because, I don't know if he'd be able to stop himself, but that's a whole nother thing. But it seems like not all of these scenes or all of these interactions with his women have been consensual. So there are women who are coming out who are saying that, he's not only been physically, but emotionally abusive. They've drawn the line at sexually abusive, but I'm thinking that's probably some of what's involved in that. If you're reading between the lines, one of his ex-girlfriends came out and said, she's a writer, I believe. She said, her response was, it takes a village to hide a predator. So there's a lot going on there, a lot. Like, just add it to the 2020, 2021, like, this fucking decade just needs to reboot. So, I don't know where to go with that. Like, but that's the story of Armie Hammer this week. So, and I guess that does it for the news. I feel like we should end on something else. Free Got 7. I don't know. But join us after this quick wine break, and we will discuss Selena, the series.
Discover more in movies, TV, and music at thepopcornwinedown.com.
Hello and welcome. This week we will be talking about Selena the series on Netflix. So Selena the series is about the story of Tejano queen and rising pop star Selena Quintanilla. I hope I said her name right. It chronicles her rise to fame and the sacrifices she and her family made along the way. Tammy, what did you think of Selena the series?
It was good. It got better.
It was good.
It got better later on in the series. In the beginning, I was just watching it because we were doing a review. Around like episode 5 or 6 is when I actually became invested in the story. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it, and I like the cliffhanger that it ended on.
Yeah. I did too. I think I'm going to probably be controversial in this. I liked it better than I did the movie. And I understand the movie was J-Lo's vehicle to fame, and it really put her on the map and, made her star rise. So it wasn't her portrayal. I think I've just always, I'm not going to say felt protective about Selena, but she died right around the time of my birthday. And so, you know, that's always just been kind of weird for me. But I enjoyed this a lot more because obviously it's a series and it goes more in depth about the things that a movie can't necessarily tell you. And I love how they took their time with it. Like they weren't just trying to rush from beginning to end. And they want to truly tell not only her story, but her family's story. So I really appreciated that. And I must say, it was better than I thought it was going to be. At first, you know, I'm with you. I went into it just because it was something that we had agreed that we would do for the show and that we would talk about. So I was like, okay, I'm going to watch it. But I was drawn in rather quickly. I think I pretty much watched it all in one day. And that was surprising because when I started, I was like, oh, I'm just going to watch a couple of episodes today and a couple of episodes tomorrow. But I pretty much watched it all in one day. And it was really, really great. So I enjoyed it. Her father was a trip, like, especially in the first episode when he sent, was it the first or second episode when they lost the restaurant and he sent the kids into the store. They had to go on food stamps and they were in the store and he gave the kids the speech about not, like, he took them to the store in the middle of the night, first of all. And he's like, this is the best time to shop. And then he gave them the speech about being proud and not embarrassed. And then he hands them the food stamps and he's like, okay, I'll be in the car. Go pay for this. And they're like, what?
It's the same thing as when he said that they had their own lights, but they didn't. They had to make lights, and he made AB go into the trash can to get
get the peach cans.
You know, and he went and sat in the car watching AB as AB is rolling around in this dirt trying to get as many food cans as he possibly can.
Yeah. Their dad was a trip. In some ways, I understand what he did and why he did it and why he was so hard, what he was working for. And in other ways, it was just like, wow.
I felt like he had a perfect example of trying to live your dream through your children and not letting them enjoy the dream themselves. Like, he was so focused on them achieving the dream that he never could himself, that they never enjoyed any of the achievements that they had at all. He never gave them a moment to just enjoy what they achieved.
Yeah, it did seem that way. And and I'm sure if you were to ask them today, they would say, yeah, you know, we had moments of fun. And I was just going to say, it seems like he's lucky he had the kids that he had, because another group of kids, some other kids, they probably would have rebelled against all of that, especially the more the fame crept in and the more famous they became, the more money they started to make. I guess Selena's after rebellion was when she secretly married her husband, but it could have backfired, I guess is what I'm getting at with a different set of kids, just the way he ran them with an iron fist. And even the band, I'm sure there were more moments that they didn't discuss about rebellion within the band, the strict no drinking, all of that kind of stuff. And it was like when his wife told him, Abraham, they're young kids, they're young. They're going to do what they're going to do. Just let them be young. It's like there was no room for mistakes with him. Everything had to be perfection, and that could be too much for some people to handle, So, what was one of your favorite moments from the show?
Oh gosh, I don't think I have one. Like, I don't think I have a moment that really stood out to me. I guess one of the stupidest moments for me was when they decided to make for the photo shoot and they were trying to make her worldly, and Abraham got all these words and he has all this stuff, but her image was not her image. That was not who she was, and they kind of went with it a lot. But I don't have like a scene that I'm like, yo, I could watch that over and over again. Like none. Like it, like like I enjoyed the series, but nothing really stood out to me necessarily, except for I guess their personalities of how they all dealt with gaining fame and everything like that. And did you realize that all the kids had some kind of mental issue?
I know her brother was OCD and type A. What was Suzette?
Well, Suzette, she had that worry that they were just gonna lose everything.
Like her anxiety,
she had a lot of anxiety, like, and I think she got that from her father, but where she was always worried that the littlest thing was going to destroy everything, which is hilarious because I know when her and Selena was first growing up, I remember Selena liking that boy and wanting to go to the movies to kind of hang out with him, and she had already asked Abraham and he had said no, and then she persuaded Suzette to do it, and Suzette goes and it's like, oh, you blew it, like I couldn't even persuade him to let you go to the movies. And I'm like, okay, but then later on I felt like she was able to do a lot of stuff on her own, but Selena wasn't, even though Selena was an adult. And that really threw me off. Like the dating thing, when Bill called to date Suzette, that was fine. But did they have this idea that Selena would never date?
Yeah, I think, because she was Selena, she was the star, she was the baby of the family. Like the one who seemed the most realistic and okay with her relationship with Chris was AB.
Yeah.
He was just like, and he had a reminder, he's like, she's a grown woman. Like
she's 20 years old. Like I love when he did that. He was like, she's 20 years old. What do you want me to do? Like she's an adult. Like that's not my job. Like she can make her own decisions. And I'm like, that's so true. Like, the more you push her, the more she's going to sneak around. That is ultimately why she secretly marries her husband. And then you have to accept him into the family.
Yeah. So, but what was Selena's issue? Let's see if I picked up on it.
And I think, is it wrong for me? Don't come after me, Selena fans. But she was very weak. I don't think she had her own mind. The first time I actually saw her like actually think on her own was when she finally decided to be with Chris. But before that, like he was right in saying that, she didn't think for herself. She never thought for herself. She'd never done anything for herself whatsoever. Like it's like she didn't have her own dream. Like you have dreams, but were you able to achieve them?
Well, I think, and that's one of the things about her life being cut so tragically short is because, and I know you didn't live in Texas at the time, and she wasn't a household name at the time. That happened after her death. But in Texas, if you lived in Texas, you knew who Selena was, regardless if you were into Tejano music or not, But I think as she got older, because, she'd always been sheltered. She'd always just been around her family. Even in high school, it showed that she really wasn't allowed. I'm not going to say not to have friends, but she really couldn't hang out with her friends. It was always her family. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying when she bought the car, how she thought about how her dad would react. That seemed to be the first reaction to anything she did, even when she got her haircut. And we know she got that heartbroken haircut that we've all had or we've all done at one point. She thought about when she came home, the first thing it was about her dad. So I think her dreams, like she wanted to make clothes, and I know she had a clothing line coming. Like there was so much coming. When she was murdered.
The series doesn't talk about that yet, though, because it's at the point where where Chris gets out. So.
Yeah, but she does talk about her dream to make clothes. Like you see it. I forgot what episode, but when she was looking at the magazines, and she was talking about how expensive they were, and then she was talking about when she went to her album premiere or her album listening party, and they asked her about who made her clothes, and then she said that her dream was, and in another episode she's like her dream was to have her own clothing line. So she does mention some of the things that were coming or that she wanted for herself, but as far as her just actually before standing up for herself, no, she didn't do that a lot. It was really all about what her family.
Like, she didn't even do it when it came where Chris got kicked out of the band. She was very upset and she cried, but she got her butt back on that bus and watched the bus ride away without him. And so even then there was no like stand your ground kind of thing from her, which I guess shows her young age, her young mindset, in fact that she had been sheltered her whole life. She didn't have that also, oomph that maybe other people would have if they had had more of an outside life besides her family.
And also she comes from a very traditional Mexican family where we've talked about it a lot of times, where a lot of minority families are very patriarchal, and you just did not go against your dad. Because even for it to be the early 90s, how many grown men would have called, and I'm going back to Bill here, would have called and asked to would have called and got permission from the girl's father to take her out. And then, I don't know if you caught it, but it was like, okay, Suzette liked Bill, and you get what he was doing, but there was never a conversation between Bill and Suzette about, hey, I'm going to call your dad. And I'm sure he understood just from their conversations and the times that they hung out, what kind of family she came from and who her dad was and how he was. But it seems like to me, he would have at least asked her so she knew that it was coming. And then when he does call, he talks directly to her dad. Her dad hangs up, and then her dad's the one who tells her, oh, you're going out on a date with Bill. He doesn't say he called to ask permission. Is this something you want? He just said, you're going out on a date. And I'm like, well, no one even thought to consult her about it, Like,
but then also with that mindset is, yes, you are in a male-dominated like family and everything like that. But yet, you had grown men riding on a tour bus with your daughters. And you never thought that anything would come about from any of those grown men being on a tour bus with your daughters?
Because they knew the rules.
Oh
and,
my God.
Selena was the good girl, but they all knew the rules.
And that is the reason why it ended up being that Chris and Selena get together. Like I thought Abraham set himself up as well with that, on having them on the bus and just automatically assuming like you don't see anything of that your daughter may fall for one of them. That was just like something like, oh, it's a rule, so I know it's not gonna like that seemed very unrealistic to me. I know it actually happened in real life, but it just seems so unrealistic to actually think that having a whole bunch of grown men on a tour bus with your daughters and no relationship would come about at any point.
Thank you. And if she never had a life or never really had a chance to get
those were the
out,
only males she had.
Like how could you not expect her to eventually fall for someone in the band? Like exactly. If that was really
that's her, and then her mom, like I feel like her mom didn't really like. Her mom didn't really have no say whatsoever. Like she was along for the ride. Like she was just along for the ride. Had no real, significance whatsoever. The only time I was just like, okay, go mom, was when she almost got hurt and her dad was more nonchalant about it. Her mom was just like, no, like she needs protection. I know you want to keep her safe and I want to keep her safe. So you need to get her protection. And then he actually does it. And it says like, we got to keep your mom happy as well. But other than that, like, no, it just boggles my mind that nobody saw her and Chris coming. Like, that just threw me off that nobody saw that coming. Well, except for AB, but AB was just like, I don't care. Like, it's whatever for me.
Yeah.
But nobody else saw it coming.
Well, Suzette saw it coming, but Selena kept shutting her down whenever she would ask about it. But
that's because
apparently
Suzette trying to be a sister who knew her sister's secrets. She was trying to guilt her into not doing it. That's what she was trying to do.
Yeah, but apparently the rest of the band knew about it.
Yeah.
Like, it was the worst kept secret in the band, except for the rest of her family outside of AB.
That's what threw me off. Is like none of the rest of them were actually surprised. None of the rest of them cared. The only ones was her dad, her mom, and her sister. Everybody else was just so chill about it. Like, okay, like, they finally found out they were in a relationship? Yes.
You know, so it yeah, that to me. And I remember, and like I said, I kind of remember hearing about it, like her dad, they say that, you know, in real life, her dad really was very strict. He was very, I'm not going to controlling, but I'm not going to say it was in a bad way, because I don't have the right to say that. I'm not. But just from what I've seen, like I said, it goes back to the fact that he was very blessed to have the children that he had, because another group of kids, someone else with the personalities and the love and respect they have for him, because living under all that pressure, they would have broke. They would have.
Well, AB's gonna break in the second part, because what really, like, that's okay. I will say that I may not have a favorite scene, but I do have one thing that really, really pissed me off, is the amount of pressure that he put on AB, and never once did it click on AB's responses that he needed a break. Like, he never ever thought they needed a break.
Yeah, like, you know, the pressure to put on AB to write a song whenever, we have to go platinum if we want to make the English language album, which she was recording at the time of her death. You know, then we have to go platinum. We have to do this. We have to do that. And it was just like, okay. And then the first response that AB had was, after they kicked Chris off the bus, or he fired Chris from the band, you know, well, you need to find another guitar. I always do. Like, you know.
Oh, I loved when he snapped at Abraham. When he snapped at him on thinking that he was the one that was supposed to be stopping Selena from falling for Chris. And then also when he was just like, well, we have to find another guitarist. And he's like, no, I have to find another guitarist, because that's what I do. And I'm just like, thank you. That's another pressure on you. So besides having to write these songs, and also losing his writing partner, because Pete, it was like no true acknowledgement on that Pete was leaving. Pete was leaving the band, and he was gonna be leaving the tour at some point in order to record his own CD. So that was one of AB's like security blankets that was not going to be there for him to kind of keep him sane.
And okay, so the dad co-signed on that, because I think the dad was also going to be Pete's manager or whatever, because he knew. But it's like, okay, well, why? And it goes back to what Suzette has said in an earlier episode, like, you need to discuss these things with us. Like, he didn't discuss anything with them. It's like, okay, you could have at least had a conversation with AB to let him know that it was coming. And it seems like when Pete talked to him, Pete had expected him to at least have some idea, like his dad to have at least talked to him about it, or brought it up. And so AB was blindsided, and then he went and took that frustration out on Selena. And that's when she started running hot and cold with Chris again. Yeah. And so it was just like, you know, it was a lot. Like, you and from what I said, you do realize all that was sacrificed to get to where they were.
And I will say that watching her journey to the success of where she was before her untimely death was, I love that part of it. I love seeing how they started with her so young, where they were playing at old folks' home, where the old folks didn't even really want to hear them, switching it up to singing in Spanish, really, really getting popular when she won at the Tejano Music Awards, and just seeing all of those achievements when she got the gold record. And I'm just like, wow. Like, I mean, it definitely paid off. All the hard work, all the sacrifices, it paid off on the success that they had as a family. But at the same time, the sacrifices, I am sure, were a lot that hit them in the background. You know, and that's the thing. Like, I would like to see, sometimes I would like to see an honest depiction of of that, right? So we can speculate on it, we can have a conversation about it, but I would actually like to hear the people who went through that. Like, how did you really feel as you were going through it? Like, you can sprout all that, well, you know, I was always with my family and that's great, but mentally, like, how did you handle that? Because that was tough. Like, AB got OCD based on that. So yeah, but it was great to see her journey, though, like how she gained success, and, you know, in the Spanish market when she first couldn't speak Spanish at all, and going from there. It was good.
Yeah. And I do, and, you know, and to be fair to her father and her family, I do like the moments of closeness that we see. I like the humanity. I like seeing more behind the scenes that we didn't necessarily see in the movie. I think sometimes, you know, because I really loved where he stood up for her at the school when this is, you know, he may have taken it to extremes by just taking her out of school, but the teacher was just like, you know, and the teacher, when he went to get her work, and the teacher was like, no, and he's like, but we have permission from the principal to be here. What is your concern? From the principal to do this. What is your concern? Is she failing? No. Is she falling behind? No. Do you not get the work on time? You know, like, no. So you can't answer to any of those things. So how can you say that I'm abusing my child? You know. Now, with him taking her,
I'm going to be devil's advocate on that, because I think that goes towards also social skills, on the fact of that there are certain things that kids gain from being in school that they necessarily don't gain anywhere else. And that's what I kind of got, that the teacher, she may not have said it correctly, but I felt like that's what she was trying to say on, yes, she's doing all her work and she's, you know, she's a great student when she's here and everything, but she's not having the time to be a kid, to be a teenager. And I felt that's what she was trying to say, on the fact that she was missing so many days of school, that she wasn't having the opportunity to be a teenager, to just live. And that's what I felt the teacher was trying to say to the parents.
And I get that, and I appreciate that, and it goes back to a lot of the same issues that a lot of child stars have, as far as like homeschooling, private schooling, you know, personal tutors and all of that kind of stuff, and socialization skills, and some of the mistakes that they make along the way because they're not allowed to just be kids, some of them. So, I mean, I do get it, and I understand that, but I agree, the message got lost in the messaging because it was fucked up. And so I understand his response. But like I said, I do like seeing some of the closeness and the fun times that they had as a family. I love the part where where they got the bus and they thought they were going to lose the house, and she looked at him and he looked at the bus and she's like, no. And he's like, what? She goes, we are not moving into the bus.
But you were thinking about it, though.
Yeah. So, you know, it just seems like it was hard. Like, it seems like sometimes he let the business of running Selena Inc. Take over, being her manager, being a CEO of Selena, overshadow him being, her
and
dad.
A husband. And I feel that, you know, of course we don't talk about that, but how much of a relationship could the parents have had, seeing as how their whole life was based on Selena's career after, you know, she gained success? Like, they rode in that bus, like, they don't really show us them having a true break, right? We do see them at home and everything like that, but I just feel like, what kind of relationship did you have with your husband?
Thank you. And then when y'all on the road
all day.
And not only that, when you're on the road, when you getting some quality time, if you know what I mean, because you're sharing a room with your two adult daughters.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, AB had quality time because he ended up having the two kids. But I'm just saying. He ended, and that's another
Thank
thing, because
you.
AB got married. AB had 2 kids, and yet he wasn't there really for his kids. Like, his son had just been born a couple months before, and he was already going back on tour. So with this, it also shows like he wasn't having, that presence in his kids' lives. I'm granted, maybe it was a little bit different than what the TV show showed, of course. But I felt like he just wasn't there. Like, she was like, oh, my mom's going to come and help me, so we'll be fine. Because she didn't want to go on the road again, because that's just not something that you want to do with 2 young kids. But yeah, I'm just like, okay, so, like, dang, like, there's like no real relationship development.
But it's not just AB. That's the rock star life. And I guess especially when and that's the thing about touring and being a musician or whatever and having a family, especially as musicians get older and start having families, you see that they tour less. Like, they'll do that one big summer tour or whatever, but they're not always on the road as much because it does take away from.
And I don't know.
And as your kids get older,
like a lot of tours, they actually take their families with them, so that they're not separated. So that's why they'll do it. And it goes along with like actors and actresses, right? So the relationships that I hear that really survive is when they make a deal that they only go a certain amount of time without seeing each other, without being together. And when that time is up, then one of them has to fly to the other one wherever they are just to spend time together. And I think, that can definitely help a relationship when you can spend months not seeing your significant other because of the careers that y'all have,
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't. And she knew, and his wife, credit to his wife, she knew what she was getting into. They had those conversations and stuff like that. And I think he understood more why the first, I guess, guitarist had to quit when his baby was sick, and just the life on the road and how the choices that he made. So I hope Netflix, because reading the previews for this, I knew going in that this was not going to tell her life story in one season, and I'm kind of glad it did. I'm kind of glad that it's taken its time and marinated.
Oh, I love the cliffhanger. Cliffhanger was great.
Yeah. And so I hope Netflix doesn't pull a Netflix and actually fucking renews it so we can see what happens. Although we know what happens, we know how it ends, but sometimes the beginning, the end, but you want to know what happens in the middle. So that's where I'm at. And so I hope we get to see more of what happens in the middle. And so far it's been a success, Like I said, I guess because of the time that it's taking in telling the story, that I am enjoying it more than the movie. And like I said, the movie, when it first came out, it was still hard for me to watch just because of, but yeah, I love Selena. I love her music. And so, a second season. Are you for it or against it?
Well, they left it on a cliffhanger, so they got to bring a second season to see what happens. Hopefully, COVID doesn't kill, a second season based on like the scenes that they were taping, like those concert scenes and everything like that. Hopefully, COVID doesn't kill that.
Oh yeah, fucking Rona. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't. If we get a second season, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say it will probably be next year, maybe 2023, just because of the situation. And I know a lot of productions, when we're saying they should be starting up, a lot of the productions haven't restarted from when they shut down for Christmas break because of Rona. So we will see. But I'm all for a second season of Selena, and I will watch it just as enthusiastically as I watch this one. But I'm going to say that it probably wouldn't last beyond a second season, just because, unless you just dragged it out, it definitely would be a limited series for real, unfortunately, due to the tragic ending of her life. So, all in all, how would you rate Selena the series?
Giving it a 3. A solid 3.
A solid 3. You didn't even think about it.
A solid 3. I'm giving it a solid 3. It's a lot of promise. just like you, I really love Selena. I actually, because I did not grow up in Texas, I did not become a fan of Selena until after her death. When her music was introduced to me is when I became interested. And then, of course, I watched the movie, and that signified, like, I was just going to be a fan for life. But I did enjoy the series. It started off slow. I wasn't really interested in the beginning, but it definitely ended very, very well. And I think they slowly got into the roles that each of them was playing, which was definitely enjoyable for me. So I'm going to give it a solid 3 and wait for part 2 to come out. What about you, Eddie?
I'm gonna give it a solid 3.5. I love the casting. I think the cast did a great job. Christian Serratos, which we didn't really talk about, did an excellent job as Selena. The resemblance is amazing. Some of the bad hair, but you have to remember that it was the 90s, so the bad hair and the bad wigs, that was par for the course in what we were going through, or what the fashion was like in the late 80s, early 90s. So I get that. But I think the cast was amazing, and I really loved the story from beginning to end. Like I said, I pretty much watched it all in one day, so I'll let you know I was really drawn in. There are some things, I know her family was involved. I know her sister is an executive producer. So, we may not get exactly what we want as far as some of the gritty details. But I think I am looking forward to a second season and seeing how they handle that, with the introduction of the Yolanda Saldivar character and her marriage to Chris and how the family responds to that. So I really, really am looking forward, and hopefully it will get picked up and renewed so they can finish telling the story. But that is the story of Selena, and that does it for this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Thank you for joining us as always, and be sure to tune in next week when we will be discussing Rugal. Yay! I'm so excited about this one. Another K-drama.
It's not a K-drama. It's an action series that just happens to be in Korean.
Hello.
Oh my God. Okay, a K action series. That's a mouthful. So we're going back to K-drama.
No,
but yes,
it's an action series that just happens to be in Korean.
Okay, for the sake of time and the mouthfulness, we are going to talk about the K-drama / action series. See, that's even more. Rugal. Be sure to tune in next week and join us for that. Until next time,
and
I'm Eddie.
Tammy. Bye. Hope you enjoyed this week's popcorn review. Don't forget to visit us at thepopcornwindown.com for your daily dose of pop culture.